Hi everyone, Kat the Herbal Prepper here, and 2 weeks ago I did an episode of Herbal Prepper Live all about herbal dental care and off-grid dental emergencies, and the feedback that I got from it revolved around, or at least some of the feedback revolved around the cost of herbs and the cost of prepping in general. So my response was to do two things. One of them was a video demonstrating how to put together dollar store dental kits. And these could easily be expanded to dollar store hygiene kits. And the second video is this one right here, which is how to keep herbalism affordable. So before we get on to this, just one quick favor, if I could have you click subscribe below if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much. I'm trying to grow my channel. And let's get started. What I have for you are 5 tips on how to keep herbalism affordable. This way you can begin to incorporate herbal remedies into your preps, but without breaking the bank. So the first tip is to focus on one herb at a time. This is really the best way to learn to work with an herb, and it's what I tell my students, and it will help you build up your supply of herbs over time. Now, I understand that there's that urge that a lot of preppers have to buy everything right now, just get ready, because you never know when something's going to happen. But honestly, you're better off knowing how to use a small number of herbs really, really well, as opposed to a bunch of herbs that you don't know very well at all. So what I mean by this is take 2 to 4 weeks, spend some time reading about the plant, understanding what it can do, what different parts of the plant can do, how it's safely and effectively prepared. Do you make teas from it? Do you make tinctures from it? Do you make infused oils from it? Can you make poultices with it? So on and so forth. Get to know this plant. If you can ingest it, then, by all means, make your teas. Begin to see, what does it taste like? How does it make you feel? And write all this down and see how you feel, not just when you take the tea, but over the course of that month. See if there are any changes that have, come about as a result of this. So pick an herb that, deals with maybe something that you're dealing with, an herb that might be helpful for a particular use. So that might take a little investigation, but pick something that'll be useful to you. Get to know it really well, because these herbs tend to have multiple uses. It's not like, you have an herb and it only does one thing. So focus on one herb at a time. The next tip is to buy in bulk whenever possible. By buying in bulk, yes, it is a larger upfront cost, and that can put some people off, but there are so many herbs that are between like 10 and 20 bucks. Not a huge outlay of cash. So 10 and 20 bucks per pound, I should say. So if you're buying them by the pound, you're going to get plenty of herb in order to practice with, making your teas, making your tinctures. You'll have some to store as well. So there are lots of good reasons to buy in bulk, but ultimately it's because you get the best price per ounce. So if you're only buying one herb a month, there's plenty that are like $12, $13. They're not terribly expensive. So the next thing I want to mention is growing your herbs. So we're stepping away from buying the herbs into growing them. Seeds are a lot cheaper than buying the herbs already grown and dried and so on. But of course, if you're looking at herbs that don't grow in your region, then you are stuck with buying them. However, if it will grow where you are, just like with food, seeds are cheap compared to the final product. This will also give you a great opportunity to see the plant in all of its stages, which is going to help you learn to recognize it in the wild. So this is a more affordable, more sustainable way of building up your herbal supply. You're going to be going from seed to harvest and hopefully saving your seeds from year to year. Now, when it comes to growing your own herbs, this is not a quick fix. You're trading off expense for time. You're certainly learning a whole lot more about this plant, but it's certainly going to take a lot longer to grow an herb till it's ready to be harvested, as opposed to just purchasing it. So you are trading off time for money there. And let's see, the next tip here is to learn to wildcraft. Now, when we talk about wild foods, we call it foraging. And when we talk about wild medicine, we call it wildcrafting. I don't know why, but those two terms are very similar. So why would you wildcraft? Well, one, as long as you have permission to be on the land where you're picking from, then you're getting this. You're getting your herbs for no cost, except for the time and effort to go out and collect them. So, you've done your research on the herb, and you know that you can safely, identify it out in the wild, and now you harvest it and you bring it home. You haven't spent any cash out of hand. The other thing I would say about wild crafting is that wild plants do tend to be more vigorous and more potent than their cousins in your garden. The wild plants just do tend to have a little bit more oomph to them. So there's that to keep in mind. But with both growing your own herbs and wild crafting, definitely try these, because the live plants, the fresh plant material, is often very different than the dried plant material when you start working with them. And compare a fresh tea to a dry tea. Compare a tincture made with the fresh plant to the dried plant. See how they affect you differently, if they do at all. With wild crafting, there's no outlay of cash there, just the time and effort spent to go get it. And the last tip we're going to talk about is save your glass jars. And this isn't to disparage plastic jars. They have a role to play too. It's just that preppers tend to have a lot of mason jars kicking around, so those are glass. This will help cut down on purchasing lots of glassware, which you're going to ultimately do for your herbs when you buy the bottles with the little eyedroppers and such. But for right now, you have these wonderful mason jars at home. Maybe you save jars from food that you buy. These are great for storing your herbs. You can use a little vacuum sealer with your mason jars and suck out all the air to help cut down on oxidation. But you can also use these while you're macerating your tinctures, or when you're percolating them, or when you are making infused oils. It's wonderful for while you're making your remedies, as well as for storing them afterwards. So save your glass jars, save your plastic ones too, especially the little cosmetic containers. You can certainly make sure that you clean them really, really well. But you can certainly save powders in them, or making lotions, you can reuse them. But this will at least save you some on the outlay of cash for containers for your herbal products. So that's it. I hope that you found this video helpful, that you get a chance to incorporate these tips, and that it encourages you to learn more about working with herbs, incorporate more herbal remedies into your preps. And if you have any questions, you can leave me a comment down below, and you can also go to my website at herbalprepper.com to learn more. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time.